Hello, Reverend Jaganath and Margabandhu. Thank you so much for joining me here today for our episode where on episode number 207, I got a chance to interview one-on-one Margabandhu. On the last episode, number 208, I got a chance to interview you, Reverend Jaganath, and through the process of arranging for these interviews, the first one was a pre-interview where I got a chance to speak to both of you just like this, and I found it so refreshing and invigorating having the two of you here together because I got a sense of the history both of you have, and I have a friend that he teaches yoga, I teach yoga, and we've been communicating over the last 20 years and helping each other out along the way. And I guess I want to bring a little attention to how valuable and important it is to have a friend along to travel with along this journey. And the feeling that you both had, when I was listening to you, felt special, and that's why I'm grateful to have this chance to have the two of you together here and hear some stories about yoga. Thank you so much.
No,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Todd.
On that note, how did you guys meet?
I
Uh,
can't remember the first time, Margabandhu, do you? Must have
no,
been at a program.
yeah, yeah. And then you had called and we went, and then I went to New Brunswick, right? Is that
Yeah,
what it
oh,
was?
yeah, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Margabandhu would come every Saturday. We had a center in New Brunswick, and at that time you were in Garfield.
Yes,
It
yes.
was in Garfield. It's about an hour apart. Uh, and I don't remember how it started, but Margabandhu would come every Saturday. And that's when I got the letter from Gurudev to say that uh, how great of a teacher he was, and just to learn from him. Um, and that's what I did. I observed and how he treated people, and I saw the power that comes from serving others. A selfless service. That there's a power there, um, and he's incredibly knowledgeable on all these healing aspects of yoga and life. Uh, but I think just having him around, there's something about him um, that speaks of the essence of yoga. So, I'm always feeling like indebted to him. And I just, Gurudev never said don't change the protocol, so I'm sticking with it. I just watch him and learn from him.
Eh, Yeah, there's a mutual feeling right here, between the two of us. Yeah, we're like brothers and we respect one another's opinion and the way he runs things is really admirable, really. You have to see people respond to him,
Hmm,
you know.
I
So
believe it.
there's a mutual feeling, and that helps both centers, you know.
Yeah, that's
So
cool. That's neat to think about how, each of you running your own program are able to
yeah.
support each other, but the energy would be feeding off of each other like that to have a whole hour's distance between. Did you guys have students that would travel, one weekend we'd be going over to your studio, Reverend Jagannath, and then one weekend you guys would trade off and set up like little field trip situations, or
Oh yeah,
or is it more that each of you would just travel and support each other's communities?
I think.
Well,
Go ahead,
we
Mark.
supported each other's communities. He would give talks here. See, everybody gravitated towards Reverend Jaganath. He's a little humble about things, but we hear he's speaking, we all gravitate towards him. He's the man. We have centers, and we both run our centers very well. But when it comes to speaking, his philosophy, his just every word of his is like spiritually involved. So there's a lot of respect for him right now. You know.
Margabandhu. And we have some of our students see him regularly and go to classes there. Um, it's really part of one lineage. I think that's part of if there's a secret, that's part of it. That we really are following the teachings of Swami Satchidananda ultimately. So both of us are students of Swami Satchidananda, have a lot of things in common over the years. Um, so these students come in and they see that there really isn't a big divide. between the two different centers. And they, students in my center, they love Margabandhu. And I love referring people to him, often.
Yeah.
Um, so that's something that I think more yoga centers should have that attitude. My experience has been sometimes it's not that way. Um, Actually, I had a really higher level teacher in another organization, and she was meeting with other teachers, with my book on the Yoga Sutras. And when the person who was the head of it heard, threatened to kick her out for using that book. This is the Yoga Sutras. It's like, I'm not getting married to this person. I wasn't teaching there, but she had come to some talks that I've done, um, and she thought it was really great to have these meetings. Um, and they said, no, you couldn't do that. And different from us. She got paid, so
Mm.
she would lose her income.
Yeah.
It's kind of a sad thing to see that kind of thing happen.
Well, that's a really good point. I mean, I think the aspect of competitiveness within the realm of the challenge to survive and make a living probably is one of the big dividing factors in trying to help support a neighboring studio. But I, I think obviously in the spirit of yoga, we aim and hope that that won't be the case, but then we see that sometimes. Can you both help me understand how how do you both receive compensation for the time and energy that you put in beyond the good feedback that you have from the feedback that you receive? Because I'm curious what kind of model you've been able to adopt that has worked harmoniously like this.
Well, I have my own practice, and it happens to be at the institute. See, so I see people during the day, and they come to me for nutritional counseling, and I work on them.
Yep.
But in between, I teach at Fairleigh Dickinson University, and I mean we've been teaching here I think 54 years. It's a accredited course, so that money, because I teach yoga, goes to the institute. So in between I do both. I got
Got
my
it.
own practice at the institute, and then I'll teach a class. I teach a class on Sunday mornings. Uh, it's called the Art of Self Healing, Antarctica. And that class. So whatever I teach yogically goes to the institute. My own personal practice, I that's my business. Like, yeah.
Understood.
I'm an herbalist, so
Understood. Thank you.
yeah,
Is that a
it worked
similar
pretty good.
is that a similar setup, Reverend Jaganath?
No, mine is different. I'm trying to think where to start with it. Uh, Partially, um, my wife is a nurse, hospice nurse, so that was income coming in. And she's said over the years, like, anything I do that makes money for me doesn't work. I have to, it always seems like I have to not do it for money. Um, but this group of students that gathered around me, they wanted to know what was like tradition. They really were interested in tradition. I said, well, you have your teacher. Uh, it's not that you pay the teacher, but you help support them with the food, clothing, the basic needs. That's what you do it as an offering. Uh, so one person who's a bookkeeper asked me to calculate what are my expenses, monthly expenses. Um, and that's what I get. I get whatever I don't even know what the number is, but that was the idea. It's not thought of as like a payment for service, but that's helping to support me so that
Yep.
I can dedicate myself to service. So it's a little different situation than Margabandhu.
Yeah.
Um, that
That's
works pretty
interesting.
good so far. I mean,
Yeah. I hear you. And I think like when you see the outcome of the camaraderie that can occur from that, that's a clear indicator that something worked well. Did Swami Satchidananda ever receive payment from you guys in the time that you were studying with him, or did he keep that on a very similar thread where you like I loved your story, Margabandhu, about driving him on out in California and getting dropped off. But like, you were
Yeah,
helping him to be with him while he's driving,
yeah,
that type of thing. You're supporting him, you're helping along the way. Is that how he kept it the whole time?
Well, almost like the same, right, Jagana? I mean, basically the same. We supported him, and most of the time he was speaking, he was visiting different centers. So all that traveling and housing, had to be gotten from somewhere. So he was supported by the whole organization, right? I guess is that right, Jagana?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. There would be I don't know, it wasn't a fee. He never, as far as I know, he never asked for a certain amount of money.
Yeah, yeah,
It was never even a part of the conversation. We just did it as an offering that made sense to us, and that covered, all the travel. If you had to fly or the hotels or whatever, we would take care of that. And then I'm sure it's similar with Margabandhu. Anything extra would go to him as
yeah.
well, because what the feeling is, what we receive from that kind of expertise and care, we really want to support that. But I don't remember him ever asking for
No,
money.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
pretty amazing. That's an amazing trait. That's a very
yeah.
admirable trait. We we don't see that very often these days.
No,
Yeah.
no. I don't know
Margabandhu,
any other way that he earned money other than when he would teach.
Margabandhu, I heard you say that you, prior to us hitting record, that you offered your teacher training for free over these years. That's can you explain a little bit about how you structure your training and what kind
well,
of energy comes out of offering something like this to people? I mean,
well, it's not me just offering it. That we have a teachers training program, and people come, people that have been taking classes or doing yoga for a while, and they want to, take teachers training, and we have a certain fee, and our teachers that teach the teachers training don't get paid. All that money goes to support the institute. We have a rent here, we have a mortgage here, we have expenses, So, and then we have people that we have a secretary who does karma yoga as well, and she takes care of all the bills. So anything that's made financially, we give it to her, and she allocates it. She
got it.
pays mortgage, she pays the bills, and it's similar to what Jagannath Center does too. And basically,
Yeah,
and even Gurudev, I used to have him when he teach at Fairleigh Dickinson, and he would get a fee, you know. And then he would just give it to the center. He'd pay the bills. He would never keep it, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
And if he wanted something, he got it. He just, can I tell you a funny story? Jagannath, do you know the story how Gurudev got the car, the
No.
Rascal's car? No?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
that was that green
Yeah.
Imperial, right? I think it was an
Yeah.
Imperial.
At the time, how I met the Gurudev was through the Rascals, the Young Rascals. I don't know if you remember who they were, Todd.
I do. I do.
Yeah.
I do know
And I
that.
was best friends with Eddie Brigatti, and I was always with them. And they had met Swami Satchidananda on tour, and that's how I got to meet Swami Satchidananda. So they would see him a lot, especially Felix Cavalieri. He was really into the philosophy of yoga, and he was, so we were around Swami Satchidananda a lot. So a lot of times we would take him some places, and at that time, the Rascals had their own car. They had an organization car. It was a brand new LeBaron, beautiful LeBaron. And they used to pick up Swami Satchidananda in the car. It was a very comfortable car. It was a luxurious car. And he used to really like it. So Eddie Bugatti would say, you like this car, Gurudev? He said, oh, this is very comfortable for me because, Swami has to go places, so he has to be very comfortable. So they said, you want it, you got it. So they gave him the car, So that basic term, you want it, you got it. It was familiar. It wasn't that familiar to Swami Satchidananda, and he picked up on it. He picked up very quickly on our language in this country. So after they gave him the car, he's given a talk at the St. John the Divine Church, and somebody asked him, Gurudev, I would like to see God. He says, you want it, you got it. And that was it. So,
That's
because
that's so
anytime
fun.
he was with the Rascals, they asked him to go. He would say, "Is it possible for me to do this?" They would say, "You want it, you got it," And then he used that term in the lecture. But
How
they gave him the green LeBaron, beautiful car.
how
It's still
how
there.
how was his English when he first came over to the States? Was he like
Well,
really?
some people didn't understand the vowels and consonants were a little off, but most of us could understand. We understand the gist of it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
in the beginning, it was close quarter, so uh, he would, in other words, to be with him in the beginning, we had private consultations. So those private consultations, you got to understand. And my first consultation with him was it was like a psychiatric, visit.
Yes.
Yeah, he was sitting in the chair and we talked about things. He explained to me with drugs. He was talking about the drugs I did, and he would always ask questions. And he seemed like, even though he asked questions, he seemed to know everything about it. So one time he asked me, "What is this okay to talk about? Yeah, is this okay to talk
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, yes.
about?"
Please, please.
He asked me about LSD. And so I was telling him, he goes, well, he explained, he says, what that really does, and he told me, he says, when you take a certain chemical, it activates the serotonin. And what happens, your third eye, it raises the channel up. And then when the drug wears off, it closes down. So that's why you have something called a bad trip. He explained that to me. He says, with meditation, it throws up the serotonin, it opens up the eye, but doesn't close back down. And that was really clear to me about meditation and how. So that's how he explained things to us
Yeah.
about how he accepted that. He brought everything down to the lowest common denominator. He explained the physiology of it, mechanics of it, and then that's how he accepted it.
Nice.
That's what it was. And he did. Even in the beginning, he didn't tell us to become a vegetarian. He told us the mechanics of eating and about the food and and that's how he did everything with us. He never demanded anything from us. He explained it to us very clearly, and we bought into that philosophy. Is that Jagannath?
That sounds perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what it was like with him. Never demanding. He once said to me, he said, anything that's good, I can't keep you from doing. Anything that's bad, I can never make you will do.
Mm,
Like thinking of the whole Sangha that way.
yeah.
That, I mean, that's like a guiding force in a way to not think of like changing people. But like Margabandhu says, you just simply present. And that's what he would do. There was never a sense of being forced to do anything.
Yeah.
I love that because I remember Margabandhu, the story you told me on the last session about how when you went to give the speech on celibacy, that he had said to you, just remind them that it's not a sacrifice. And I was thinking about that the last few days since I heard you say that. That's such an interesting way to approach teaching in the sense of what you both are reiterating now on letting, almost like encouraging us to make our own minds up. So it's not like somebody telling me what to do, but and like that inspiration that can come from.
I was really uptight, when he explained to me, because there was nuns and priests, and I'm saying, what am I, and that's the first thing he told me. It's not a sacrifice. Then he told me the physiology of it. And it just, and after I gave the talk, there was one of the priests was a scientist. He taught science. And he explained, he said that was very interesting. They enjoyed it, because I was a little nervous about it, in a way.
Yes. Yeah.
I say, okay, but he explained to me the physiology of it. And I hadn't heard it that way before, the way he explained to me over the phone. I kept calling him,
Mm.
and that's what he said. It's very clear, very interesting. It rebuilds your system, regenerates every cell, increases the prana. I mean, you had to buy into it. I mean, the way he explained it,
Yeah.
you know.
Reverend Jaganath, was there ever a time that he asked you to do something that you felt a little nervous about in relation to teaching or presenting?
It's interesting because the story came to mind that was really, to me, uh, pivotal on a lot of levels. Um, I was at Rutgers University. I was part of the campus ministry. And at this one point in time, the ministers had met and they said, we want to do programs to help the students, like anti-drug and whatever it was they were talking about. And so I was at a talk. There was me, Catholic priest, and I don't know what, a very conservative Christian young woman. And I don't remember what the topic was. But towards the end, we had questions and answers, and one young man raised his hand and he addressed the question to me. And it was very intellectual, and it always was, every certain sentence was started with, if God wants, if God wants, if God wants. I'm listening to it, and I'd been studying that time a lot of Jnana yoga. So I was in that state of mind. So I was saying, well, basically, it's not that God wants anything, God has everything. And next to me is this woman, and she starts shaking, literally shaking. And I see her vibrating it. And the corner of my eye said, she's going to explode. And she did. She leapt over to me, this is true, and put her hand over my mouth and said, I don't like your God.
Oh,
Oh,
Somehow
yeah.
I felt calm and said, okay, I was sitting there. And the priest I got to be friendly with, he said, well, this is what he was trying to say. He kind of smoothed it over. Next day, I had to call Gurudev for some business reason. And after we did the business part, I told him what happened. I said, what could I have done better? Like, what could I do? And he was giving me some advice and, about, um, he said, you shouldn't have started with that kind of heavy philosophy. Um, just like find where you, that's what it was. Find what your point in unison that you have. What do
Mm,
you have in unison? And then give it a yogic twist. So
mm.
find something, and I was thinking, and then there was this pause. And this is the part that really was interesting to me. He says, and his whole demeanor changed in the will. He said, now, I remember saying, now, I want you to call that minister and tell her everything that we said. Tell her that you called me and say everything that I said to her. And I said, this is one of those kind of guru moments. I'm just going to do it. I'm not going
Yeah.
to. Hung up. I called up. She answered the phone. And so she's this very nice woman, but very conservative Christian. So I said, well, I called my guru this morning and this is what he said. And I went through the whole thing with her. And he didn't tell me what to do after saying it. So I just stopped. And for a while, there was just silence because he didn't tell me to do anything. I'm just waiting. And then she said, I never heard anything like that before. Let's talk. I said, where I was, I forget what state she was in, was way in the country. She said, I never even saw a Jewish person until I came to New Jersey. Um, and I went to her house. She said, come over at like 2 o'clock or something. I went there. And between the time we talked and when I got there, she came to me and said, there's a cherry tree in the backyard. And I was picking the cherries and I made a cherry pie for you. So
Oh,
oh,
I came, had a cherry pie, some hot chocolate. And she just said, I never understood this until you went through this explanation of why you said what you said. Um, and I thought there's a couple things there about how he taught us. There was a little bit of a challenge. He says, then just go and do it. He didn't. And I could have asked, what should I say, or more information, but he was very definitive. And I think he felt that maybe I had the ability to just, convey the teachings to him as it was delivered to me. So there can be a challenge as well. And then at the same time, you see these teachings in the proper light. You have someone who really was as far away as you can get from these teachings. And she found something that opened her heart. And she started talking to me like, I don't have many friends here. I don't know what to do. A very different culture. And so she and I became very close friends.
wow.
So that to me was illustrative uh,
Yeah.
of the different ways that a master can teach. Sometimes it's a challenge, sometimes it's laid right in your lap. And this one wasn't. This one required of me, I felt, to just follow his teachings and see where it leads me.
Great
Uh,
story.
yeah,
Great
yeah.
story.
Her hand on my, I'll never forget that part. She
Yeah,
just put it
that would
out.
make me feel a little nervous all of a sudden. Be quiet. Stop talking. You're
Yeah,
making me uncomfortable.
yeah.
Margabandhu, did you ever have a moment where he asked something of you and you had a hard time or an easy time doing like what Reverend Jaganath said of like, I'm just gonna do this. Like this is uncomfortable. I don't know, but I'm just gonna do this.
I got to tell you a story. This is like a real test. Years ago, like when it first Gerda was in New York, and there was a couple that used to take him around different places. And so one morning they called me up and they says, Margabandhu, we were Gurudev and he wants to invite you to lunch. And he says, we'll pick you up and we'll take you to Connecticut. I was living in New Jersey here. So I said, yeah, it's fine. So I happened to be staying at this friend of mine's house, and I invited her to come too, And we drive up to Connecticut, the four of us. So we get there, and there was two women that served Swami Satchidananda at the time, Amma and Shanti. So I'm sitting there, we're waiting for Gurudev, and Shanti comes out, and she's got this weird look on her face, and she says, Margabandhu, the girl wasn't invited. She has to leave. I said, whoa. Now I have to make a decision. Stay here with her, or leave with her, or listen to the guru. I mean, I was like, and it just happened to, I know that Felix Cavalieri, the Rascals, had bought a house near Gurudev. So I called him up. I says, Felix, you got to do me a favor. I ran into this little problem. Could you, I have a friend, could I bring her over? Could stay with you for a while? Figure it was only for lunch, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. There's no problem. Make a long story short, 7 o'clock at night, I'm still there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And he's saying, and now he's testing me. He says, Margabandhu, you want to see I have really good video. You want to watch that? And he's like on him. And I'm like, oh yeah. And he said, then he stops and said, listen, he says, I'm just showing you how it is. And, if you want to, when you get to the fire, when you get close to the fire, it gets hot. He says, and to be with the guru, he says, it's challenging for me as it is for you to do this. And he says, go pick up the young lady. He says, and explain to her. And if she doesn't get upset, then she's, that person, you can, she's okay. If not, then she doesn't understand. So I went back, we picked her up, and being that she was Felix Cavalieri, the lead singer of the Rascals all day, I guess she didn't really mind.
Yeah. She's like,
Yeah.
no, leave me here
But she,
longer.
but
Yeah.
she was she was okay, and it worked out okay. But I was really freaked out. I mean, really was, you know.
That's so
And I
interesting.
didn't, but she wasn't invited. They called this couple to call me,
Mm.
and I just, come on, why don't you just come? Like, like really informal,
Yeah.
but something like that. And that was a real lesson. So,
It sounds like though, like in some way he cheekily knew,
yeah,
like he was teaching something.
yeah, he wanted, it
Yeah.
was, that was a real test.
That's a good one. That's a good
Yes,
I,
yeah. He's done other things with me, but that was one in the beginning. Yeah, Then the other time when he did certain things, then I got to understand what he was doing to me. Like he would leave me. He left me on the Santa Monica Freeway. Um, One time he left me at a lecture. He was speaking at Saddlebrook High School,
I
and when
remember that.
he
Yeah.
used to come, I used to work on him. He said I used to massage him. So there was this motel, the Marriott Hotel. It was about a mile or two from the high school. So I figured, well, I'll work on him, and then we'll just drive to the high school. So there was two rooms. So the room that I worked on him was one separate motel room, and he was with guests in the other motel room. He said, so I work on him. He says, stay here until I call you, and then we'll go together. So it was about 6 o'clock. I finished him, and the lecture was at 7 o'clock, something like that. So I'm waiting in the room, and 6:30. I says, well, we should start getting over it. I'm talking to myself. 7 o'clock, he's still not getting me. And I don't want to go knock on the door because he says, wait here until I call you. So I was going to listen. Now it's 7:30, and I'm like a little concerned, but I'm still not going to knock on the door. 8 o'clock, Shakti, yeah, no phone. Oh, that's what he showed up. Yeah. He was walking, he came to the school. Shakti's waiting, and they're wondering where I am. And I'm still in the motel, waiting for him. I'm watching some television show, now it's 8 o'clock, 8:30. And then Shakti calls me. Where are you? I said, I'm waiting for Gurudev. He finished the talk already. So now I rushed to the high school, and he comes walking out. He's got this big grin on his face, like smirking, like, I did it again to you. Plus, I don't know how he knew how to get to the high school.
right. Yeah, good point. I hear you. That test of that patience
Yeah.
to know
At the
when to
hospital.
intervene.
So, and he's done a number of things and it was just like, in other words, I was the type of, you couldn't holler at me because I'd disappear. See, I didn't respond to that type of treatment, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Some people he'd yell out, scream, discipline. With me, he just left me places a number of times, and then I would figure out what I was doing or something, you know. But that's how he responded to me. Just leave me there, you know.
Do
So,
that's so classic. I have do you guys ever feel like with students you're having to consciously think about how to teach in the best way to that person's capacity? Because it seems like it sounds like from the stories you're telling me, he had this a good capacity, an amazing capacity for knowing a really good a way to teach a lesson without just coming out and saying,
yeah.
this is what I want you to know. And have you both been able to kind of adopt that in your teaching? You've had a lot of time to practice, so I'm guessing your answer is going to be yes, but can you shed any insights in some of the how to do that? Maybe for a budding teacher, for a teacher coming up the ranks, or someone interested in teaching that's listening, what kind of advice could you lend in how to be ready for each person?
Jagannathan would be good at that. Hey, Reverend Jaganath.
I think human beings are complex. Teachings of yoga are complex, right? So the palette you have is like huge. I think if as a yogi, as a seeker, you go through years of sadhana, different kinds of practice, different kinds of things you study, and you learn kind of the ways of the mind, how the mind can aid or get in the way of your growth. So I think the first part of it is your own experiences and your own sadhana. And then you start seeing that kind of universal uh, uh, thinking and activity in people. Um, and what will help that person come to the next level, or to see it another way is like, are they ready to face some difficulty? I'm not talking about anything really heavy, but kind of like the kind of stories we have, which have maybe a sense of humor, but um, that their the students' faith is what drives them. So you're always looking for like what would increase faith in that person. So you watch. I mean, that's what I do. Watching how they sit, what they do, how they interact with each other, um, where they're lax, and then there's also those students coming and saying, can you help me with this situation I have in my life? And you start adding that all together, along with your own insight, um, and it's a little bit of prodding here, or like uh, Gurudev had said often, sometimes people have the screw too loose and sometimes the screw's too tight. So you have to see, which is this, a screw too tight person or a screw too loose person? Um, and what's also really important, though, is Sangha,
Yeah.
that people supporting each other, because they can't always come to the main teacher, or they may not want to because they're embarrassed or whatever it is. Um, so to have, I think you mentioned it earlier on, Todd, in the beginning, about having a friend or someone, having a viable, active Sangha is really, in some
Yes.
ways, that alone can take you to enlightenment over time.
I love that.
So that's really important. There's a quote from Adi Shankar Acharya, great philosopher from I think the 800s or somewhere in there. Um, and basically, it's when you're in good company, you're not in bad company. When you're not in bad company, you lead a more virtuous life. If you lead a more virtuous life, the mind becomes steady. The mind becomes steady, liberation.
Mm.
So in total enlightenment is this chain, comes out after a chain of events that begins with just being with community of fellow seekers. So that's really important. And I know in Margabandhu and what I do, thinking of programs that will help boost that, things that they have interest in and things that could be, uh, interesting to them that they've never thought of before, and feel supported. Now, no matter where they're at on the scale of a yogic accomplishment, um, everybody wants to like move a little bit further, and everybody wants to feel that they have value, which is something that I think of a lot. That If you don't feel your life has value, nothing works. That has to be, part of the process at the very beginning, that you are valuable, not because you're comparing it to anyone else, but you have a reason to be born. You have a reason to be here, and you have something to do that no one else can do. Um, and I think that is part of that picture of Sangha, that each person is invaluable. Um, so I think that's what I would say. I don't know, Margabandhu, how you would talk
Yeah,
about
well said.
it.
Very well said.
What Swami Satchidananda instilled in us, and Reverend Jaganath does the same thing, that we actually support each other in our journey in karma yoga. We understand our different fallacies and what we're doing wrong and what we could do better, and we understand each other, and then we support each other even if we're doing something wrong. We try to encourage, instead of getting mad at them, we try to support them and say that, this is what we feel. Reverend Jaganath and we know 50 years, never had like a bicker at 1 second, not even one bicker, you know,
That's amazing.
like it's amazing, really,
That is
right?
amazing, though. That actually is really amazing because
Oh,
anytime I have long-term relationships that have had lots of bickering, so to be able to have one where there's a common thread, there's a certain respect, mutual respect that maybe. Why do you think that is, though? And even if we were to remove ourselves from ourselves in the sense just analyzing it from afar, how does that work? Is it that you guys feel like, there's a certain level of joy that each of you are able to maintain. So therefore, each time you come together, you just want to celebrate in that joy. And I mean, because that is an amazing thing. I always hold the hope and the belief and faith that we could all do that a little bit more on planet Earth and
well,
in our
basically,
communities.
we have the same key, Gurudev, and he instilled that us. But our personalities are like that too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jagannat's personality, we're basically almost like the same. It's like he's a brother. I have four sisters. I never had a brother, but he's my brother.
Yeah.
I always wanted a brother. I said, I need a brother. I had four girls, That's
Yeah.
so Jagannat came along and I was okay.
Uh, I think a lot of it is the faith you have in each, but it's an extreme faith in a way. I don't know if
Yes.
it makes it sound bad, but it's extreme faith.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think also, as I was listening to Margabandhu speak, it's having a good sense of humor.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of laughing when Margabandhu and I are together. There's a lot of laughing, um, and there's a lot of warmth, and a lot of. I mean, it's almost like it's unnecessary, but there is this sense of like we are who we are as individuals, and he's not trying to change me. I'm not trying to change him. We're respecting who we are, how we are,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and all the differences we may have in what we eat or do, or like those are like all minor. That's my spiritual brother, and it's just a great respect and love for him. I think it's just that it's a higher degree, and that's why you don't see it that often. It just so happened that, our karma put us together 50 years ago.
You're, Todd.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was talking to somebody the other day. It was a client of mine, and they have a lot of respect for Jagannath, and they know his value. So I said, yeah, I haven't mentioned, we're talking about the Yankees. He talks about the Yankees. I was like, he freaked out. The Yankees? See, Jagannath was a good baseball player. He was a good baseball player. He was a good hitter. Oh, I was like freaked out. I said, well, see, he didn't come from heaven. He had a mother and father too. They couldn't believe it. Yankees, oh my
So
God, you
classic.
talked about it. He was like, the guy he lost it.
I didn't know this story. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
Doesn't it seem like the more we bring it down to earth and people see how normal and human we are, that
Yeah,
that really fosters a healthy spiritual community?
yes, yes.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I am really appreciating though the value that you both are bringing in my mind to having how important the community is. I mean, it just
Oh, yeah.
seems like I guess that's something that I feel very grateful to be a part of the yoga community. I feel like I'm very grateful to be in this community. And I feel like almost any yoga practitioner in the world, we all are a part of like one same community. And yet it is really fascinating how we have all these smaller communities building up into this one large community, and then probably even taking it a step further, as a human, the human community that's even beyond, like, obviously there's a lot of humans on earth that don't have never heard of yoga, or they think it's yogurt. But I guess I that's what I'm really appreciating about meeting both of you is this feeling of larger community that I guess I'm dreaming of, and wanting to hold on to and build more of. I think it just feels so important right now.
Yeah,
I,
it is.
I,
It is. Go ahead, Mark Wonder.
I just think sometimes a lot of groups or yoga organizations, and Jagannath speaks at more centers than I do. Some of them lost the whole concept of yoga itself, what it really means, and that's when they run into difficulties. The whole concept, like how Gurudev taught us. He broke everything down to the lowest common denominator. I mean, and he explained it very clearly to us. And I don't think a lot of groups had that experience that we had with Swami Satchidananda. I mean, he just explained everything very clearly, the purpose of service, he explained everything. And even in the beginning, the base, he gave us the mechanics of eating, not being lustful to food, and without telling us to do anything, he just explained the benefits. That's it, you know. And most of us at that time in the 60s was like there was a lot of drugs and poor diet and bad behavior. And he came in, and even in New York, people were chastising him. What are all these like animals for? They're long haired, they're freaks, they're dirty, And he said, they're still my children. And he brought us up, and look what he did. He created this city for us in Virginia, a lotus, a temple which represents all the religions. Nobody even thought of that, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, his thinking was
it's amazing.
above and beyond any master, any teacher I've ever seen. And I was into Catholicism. I was an altar boy, you know, and I believed in God. But there's nothing that can be compared to his teaching. And he even had other yoga masters because he was so giving of himself and giving of his own personal leadership to express himself to other organizations and give himself to other people, you know.
Yes.
So,
It shows the value of having a very strong, clear-minded teacher.
yes. So, and he's, when I've seen him with prisoners, I've seen him with intellects, I've seen him with, no, he was basically the same. Just he related to everybody. He was comfortable in any situation.
Even with children,
Oh my God, the best, right?
watching him with children is amazing. Like preschoolers and all. There's a a beauty and elegance in everything he did, even with these young kids and how they would, crowd around him. And yet they knew that if there was something that was off kilter, he would correct it and they would follow it.
Wow.
They knew that there was that there too.
What do you guys both know about his childhood? Did he ever convey what his life was like growing up?
Yeah, there's a biography,
Yeah.
Apostle of Peace.
I apologize, I haven't read it yet, but I will now that you brought it up.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. I mean, his family was very religious. Um, they had all kinds of great yogis come and visit their place, and they would host them. So his uh, experience with the teachings goes, from birth. Um, he was married for a while, and then his wife passed away. And at that point, he said, "No, it's time for me." He was drawn to the life of a sannyasi, or renunciate. Um, and I studied with several famous teachers. Aurobindo, um, Ramakrishna was actually Chidbhavananda, one of the disciples of Paramahansa Ramakrishna, and others as well. Um, And then he found his guru, Swami Shivananda. Um, and I don't know how many years he was there for years as a student, and was ordained or initiated into renunciate sannyas. Uh, and we know how he revered his master and how he related to him. Um, and all these things are talking about the tests and the prodding and then the supporting and always coming, it seems, at the right time. Um, so I think a lot of it he got from his master as well. And then, was it 1966, right? Margabandhu, he came to New York. Supposed to be what, 2 days or 3 day trip?
Yeah, yeah. Then he had a 30-day visa, and then he was supposed to leave.
Didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
Didn't have people just wanted him to stay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, he befriended two teachers, Brother David and Rabbi Gubman. Brother David was a Benedictine monk who became very close to Gurudev and Rabbi Gelberman, and they helped prolong his visa. Do you know the whole story, Jagannath, about
I
what
don't know
happened?
all of it, but I know it was really important because at that time, the idea of any kind of interfaith and someone, a Hindu monk is how they would think of it. What's he going to tell people here? What is the content of his teaching? Is it going to lead to more drug abuse, or what is it? Uh, and Rabbi Gelberman and Brother David, both very respected, both really worked hard that he would get this permanent visa. I forget what it was called, the Minister of Divine Words or something like
Yes,
that.
yeah, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how he got a visa to stay. But basically, people our age, the hippie type of folks, it was a lot of that was the organization, and there was something exciting about that. The idea that you could change, really, we wanted peace on earth and all these things, did a lot of things that didn't work. But here was a man who gave us something that does work. Maybe it's a little differently. It's like one person at a time, but look what's happened over the years. He's had like thousands of students. I don't know if he never kept track, and
Oh,
we don't know how many, but we know that he spoke several times around the world, um,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
spoke to thousands. So he fit where we were in the 60s. And that's when I think in the 60s and early 70s, I guess, integral yoga
yes.
really grew at that time really rapidly. And it's still here. It still has a good message for today's world.
I'm so excited to hear these stories because from my very first glimpse of his picture on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali commentary, like I see a picture and I just feel attracted, but now to have the opportunity to speak with both of you and hear these stories from direct, you have this direct contact, just feels really good. It feels, it feels, brings it to life, brings more life to it, more life than I knew about. To hear the history and to get a chance to speak with both of you, I feels like a little bit of a full circle moment for me. So I'm really thankful. You both have been so generous. And since my first meeting, it's been a real pleasure. And I know this is not the last time I'm going to get a chance to see and speak with you. And I can't wait for it to actually be in person. I love Zoom and all, but I really want to
Yeah.
see both of your centers. So I will make it a point to travel up. And please, if either of you are ever in Florida, we would be so honored to have you in our humble little studio here. It's not huge. I don't know if it would be big enough for you guys, but it'd be a real honor. It
What
really
town?
would.
What town are you in?
A town called Juno Beach. We're in Juno Beach, which is about like 20 minute north of West Palm, 20 minutes north of West Palm Beach, about an hour and 15 north of Miami.
Because I
Um,
might be in Florida in April.
oh man, Margabandhu, please. Well, I mean, I would love to host you if you, so please I'll stay in touch with you and check out. But if you do come, don't hesitate to just let me know. I won't feel like that's being overbearing in any way. Like just reach out and say, hey, guess what, Todd, you mentioned it. I'm coming. So, and I would be honored to have you here. That would be amazing. So if you ever do come and I will come visit, and I really do appreciate your generosity. And I can feel your generosity, from your sadhana, from your practice, from your devotion, and I'm just grateful for it. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Todd.
You're very generous, and we really appreciate you, really.
Yeah, yeah. I, I think how I always think at the end of a talk like this, say the same thing every time I think. Spend a little time every day for your health and peace, then share it with everyone. I think that if we just had that, keep that in mind, we can accomplish a lot of good in this world. And
Well,
so,
I think those are perfect closing words, Reverend Jagannatth. Thank you so much.
thank you, thank
Thank you,
you.
Margabandhu. This has been a real
Thank
treat.
you.
All right. Until
Shot.
next time. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless you, Todd.
Uh,
You're doing good work.
Thank you. You too. Well, we'll keep supporting each other here.
Yeah. Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Om.
Shanti.